So today's conversation is personal, and I think it hits home for me because there's a rough patch in my life where I vividly experienced this, and I was so worried about my middle child, whether he would be able to process emotions, create relationships, and learn like any other normal child. And I think those worries, they bombard parents' minds so often. They don't know what to do because they don't know who to ask and where to look for help. And they just don't know that there is this information out there for them to be helped. Their mental health affects the baby's mental health, but again, the babies or the young children also have their own mental health system that needs to be guarded, and be able to be nurtured and be able to be helped to groom adults that are really consistently growing and showing up as balanced people in the world. So today's conversation, we have Harriet Opondo, Dr. Harriet Opondo. So one thing about this conversation is between doctors, not doctors with needles, but doctors in books. So good to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this conversation is one that I think is really long overdue for some people, because some people have been privileged to be exposed and get some of these conversations, or even indulge in them in their personal lives and see where that leads them, and it has led them to a good place. But again, there are some of us that are oblivious or are just in ATS. We're still in the analog of life, we're just playing catch up with what's happening. And some of these things have been laid out plain, especially by you people that have gone on to be experts in this mental health industry. I will call it an industry because it's growing bigger and bigger, and it's really rampantly growing. But again, I believe that so many people are being helped right now, and they're living sober and better lives. So I want to start from the very start. I just shared a bit. At some point, I was scared that my child would not be able to process emotions. But remember, in as much as I have been exposed, some of these things I didn't even know, that this is how I treat meltdowns. This is how I emotionally support my child. And this is how I'm supposed to be there for them. I'm not supposed to let them over-depend on me and over-compensate. So those things are things that I learned later on in life, until I started seeing that, okay, there's a bit of balance. I wanted to treat them special so that they can feel special. So how many of these things have you bumped into? Some of these conversations have you collided into and be able to help people around?
Yeah, thank you so much, Hilda, for you. That's a good question. I feel like that's my life every day.
I know.
Whether it's
I don't envy you.
Whether it's the clients that come through the practice where I work now, or it's friends sending you a text, or it's a random person when I make the mistake of saying what I do. I've had strangers, I just want to talk about their child and what's going on. And so that is something that I see on a daily basis.
On a daily basis, people coming.
Yeah.
And do you think they come from a place of wanting to learn and execute, or they come from a place of, I didn't know, I know, but I still want to take care of my child in whichever way I want to take care of my child? Because there's a way we feel as parents, we have this whole mandate of, and then we know it all because we've been brought up a certain way, so we're going to take that same template and bring up our children in the same template. I want us to talk about what really triggers, or what brings about this conversation in the early childhood and infants. You told me before we started that the 1,000 years, and I want to hear more of the 1,000 days, not years, 1,000 days, and how that is broken down bit by bit from conception to birth, and where we come in as parents and what we need to do.
Yeah.
I know that it's a huge one.
Yeah, I'm like, that's a big question. It's loaded. First of all, to answer before I get into the 1,000 days, most parents are really curious. By the time a parent is texting me, calling me, coming to the practice, they're really open, they want to grow, they're worried about their child. So they come from a place of, I want to learn, but also want to change, help me.
That's good.
You know, help me learn better. And I always tell them, you're the expert on your child. I remind them of that. You always know your child more than me. I'm going to come alongside you and provide resources and information and knowledge and skills to help you parent better. So most of them come from a place of, I want to learn, I want to grow. I am worried about my 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Will they grow up?
Turn out all right.
Will they complete school? Will they become independent?
Yeah.
You know,
that's a great worry
so a lot of them are so worried. So if your child is struggling in their learning,
Delayed
you know,
speech,
and I've mean the sad part is parents come when the kids are older. They come when the child is 12, and they've been noticing things since the child was 3.
Wow.
And then our school system, not just the Ugandan system, even the more foreign curricula have also missed out children.
Yeah.
Not just
they keep pushing them to the next class.
Yeah, exactly.
Next class.
Or they will outgrow
they're
this
thinking,
and that.
the parent is paying a lot of money. We're not going to just hold this child in one class, and then we are not equipped to diagnose or to even look at what is happening in their lives. So they will throw tantrums, and we will give them biscuits and juice because they're paying money. So wow, that's
so there is that too. Like I don't want to forget to say that a lot of parents wait until the child is older, and then they show up with a 12, a 13, a 10-year-old, and I'm like, I wish this child got support when they were 2, when they were 3, when they are 4. But you're still able to come alongside them and do the best. So back to the concept of 1,000 days is just a belief that we all know the first 2 years of your baby's life is when there's most brain development happening. So 1,000 days really begins from conception. So think about being pregnant, you know. You're a mom. You know who you are as a person, what's going on for you is going to impact your child, from what you eat, to your relationships with your spouse, for those that are married, to your work, if you're working in the home or out of the home, all of that is going to impact your developing child, your own mental health. If you're struggling with depression, for some women, depression is triggered by pregnancy. Or if they've gone through trauma, it's triggered. If they've had difficult childhoods, you know, when you're pregnant, you're like, oh my goodness, am I going to be a good mom? How will I protect my child from the evils that me, myself, experience? And so for some women, that's going to spike anxiety, it's going to spike depression. That is going to impact your child. We have
high mortality rates. They've been high, but these days it's more exposed. So I've seen mothers that are worried from the onset of the pregnancy whether they are going to survive the birthing process.
The birthing process.
They don't know whether their children are going to survive or they are going to survive. So they worry the whole 9 months. Dreaming dreams of coffins and dying. And this I've seen it, more than 30 women have come to me thinking about these things. I keep seeing a coffin of a young child. I keep seeing I did not come out of a theater. I did not come out of a labor room. I don't know how it's going to happen. So they are stressed the whole time.
That's going to impact you, and it's going to impact your child. You're already going to start parenting from a place of anxiety. And then we don't screen for depression a lot. They just, like, the gynecologists will not ask. And for most moms ask, how are you? We're going to give the standard answer, I'm fine. Because we think there's something wrong with me. I should be happy that I'm going to be a mom. So if I say otherwise, I'm not being grateful. And so people are keeping all of these things on the inside. And then, boom, the baby shows up, and I'm maybe happy, but also anxious.
And I don't know how to balance.
I don't know how to balance that, and throw in their breastfeeding.
Becomes a problem. Even posture alone can give you issues.
You know, and
even the latching of the baby can give you issues.
And then we think that when you have a baby, it's going to be very natural. You're going to have milk. The baby is going to breastfeed.
Your spouse is going to be
happy
and
supportive. They also take off the 2 weeks to be with you. You know,
and sometimes it never happens. None of that.
Exactly. And so there are all these expectations we have, and New moms are just so overwhelmed by the responsibility. Your body has changed. You
Or they want a lot of clothes for their babies. Have you seen new moms shopping for their babies, millions of money? And you're thinking, they're not going to put on those clothes after 3 months. You're going to throw them away. And they're thinking, no, I want everything that I see on Instagram.
Yeah, and I wish they could, save some of that money and have somebody work with them, support them through the first few months.
Through the first 3 months.
Of being a new mom.
I didn't know that with my firstborn, so I did a lot of shopping. The secondborn, I didn't do any shopping. I was like, you know what? Your sister's clothes are enough. You're a boy, but you will. The thirdborn, I was like, yeah, I am chilling. I have no problems in the world. I think I need to take care of me, and the baby is going to be fine. And that's very true. That if you can save that money to have as much help as you need, that would really help.
Yeah, so it's a lot of things that will impact those first 1,000 days. And I always begin with parents' own emotional well-being. Sometimes I say mental health, but think, somebody needs to go to Butavika. That's not what I'm talking about. It's just how you are as a person. Like I talked about breastfeeding, and those that have had cesarean birth. Just dealing with the wound, whether you wanted it or not. For some, didn't prep to have a C-section.
Yeah, some people,
but then it happens. The heartbeat is decreasing. There's a cord around your baby's neck. Then I'm like, all of a sudden in the theater, and there's no time to make these decisions.
And you had all the bad things about C-section.
So you're now home. You're navigating all of these changes, and then there's culture's expectation. Be happy.
I know.
You have a baby.
Yeah.
And you're like,
and we have to press you with hot water and a hot towel.
And then you're getting 5 visitors a day who sometimes expect tea.
What's with the visitors? Can't they keep off for at least a month for someone to heal? I know that it's culture. It's people expect that. But I think taking care of our emotional and mental health is much more important. So if you need to delay the announcement, go through the healing process, then welcome them when you're happy and have a smile.
Yeah, and so there's the visitors, and then add in there either your mom or your mom-in-law is in. They're telling you what to do. From a good place, from a really good place. And you're feeling you're feeling overwhelmed, and then having someone to take care of too. Because if your mom-in-law is there, if your mom is there, you need to make sure they are okay.
Of course, you have to think about where they're going to sleep, what they're going to eat, and whether they are okay. So you forget about yourself, and you have to take care of other people.
And so there's all of that mix going on.
Throw in a toxic partner once in a while for some people.
And just
recipe for disaster.
Exactly. And then some dads, they don't want to be toxic. They're just terrified of small children.
Or even aloof.
As
in, I will drop you at the hospital and I'll go mind my business. I'll be told you gave birth, but I will not be happy. I will not show any emotions. And then I will go on my normal life.
Or I may show it, and I honestly don't know what to do. We've socialized men not to know what to... They're like, I had a dude who say, I'll wait until the kids turn 2.
Then I can be able to lift them.
And I'm like, wait, what?
Too late, my friend.
I mean, I didn't know the person, so I couldn't really get into my little psycho ed that I do with parents. I'm like, I'll just let you go. But it's all of that. But I also want to remember men who are standing up for their kids, standing up for their wives. I have friends who bathe babies right from the hospital, and they're men.
Nothing beats that support.
And they are there for their wives. And so it's not like all guys are aloof. I know there are people who are present. There are dads who are present. There are dads who are reading. There are dads who are like, Hattie, I'm going to be a first-time dad. What do I need to know?
The theater door until their wives are out. Those who will be in the NICU just to make sure that their babies are okay, just to make sure that they even do the kangaroo and put their babies on their chests. There are those fathers that go extra miles.
So I don't want to men to think that we are thinking all of them are not present. Many of you are. So it's all of those things that's going to impact parents' own emotional well-being.
Which
and
is going to
impact the baby, because if I'm stressed, if I'm depressed as a mom, I'm not going to feed my baby smiling.
You know what you didn't throw into that category, that mix? The work situation. whether you're going to lose, there are people that are worried, I will lose a job if I go for maternity leave. Then there are those that are just worried that I might come back to a no job, or they're not giving me time at all. I only have 2 days or 3 days. I've seen mothers go back
3
to
days?
work. Yes.
How?
I've seen some of them. Or definitely, I don't know how to term them, whether they're small companies, but a company is a company.
No, but I think there are laws in this country.
There are laws, but again, some people don't look at laws. They look at how do I feed myself, and then who do I work for, even if they're not really following the laws. But that's, I mean, it's putting food to on my table. So people are going through all sorts of things.
That's really sad.
And on top of that, they have, I will say, crazy bosses. Just imagine, because some of them do not plan for when they're going to get labor pains, and all of a sudden, boom, they've come before time, because some people give birth to prematures. 7 months, you're already in labor, or you've had an emergency and you have to run. You don't have any kind words, no supportive boss to think that, you know what, I need to give them time, just like you said, to nurture themselves and take care of themselves, and they can come back, then we can talk and see how we proceed with this. So that's a huge mix.
Yeah, so it's all of that mix, it's going to impact your child's mental health. And when you think about mental health for young children, one of the most building blocks is that attachment you build with your child. It's that bond, which is built over time. Smiling at your baby, feeding your baby while smiling, rocking your baby when they're crying, because for children it's like a cycle. When I need help, I'm going to cry, I'm going to make noises, and I'm watching.
I'm going to
Is there an adult who will respond to me? Is there an adult who's attuned to my needs? So I will know, as a baby, if I cry and mommy or the nanny comes to pick me up and feeds me, okay.
They care.
The environment is stable, the environment is loving. But if I cry,
no one attends to me.
Nobody comes. I'll cry a bit some more, and I'll stop crying.
I'll get used to my discomfort.
Yeah. And so what are we teaching children? Adults are unreliable. The world is unsafe.
Wow. Right from childhood.
Right from childhood. Those are the adults who don't ask for help.
Yeah.
Who don't know how to recognize their own emotional needs.
Yeah.
It started from the time they're a baby in a crib.
Wow.
So we learn those things as babies.
So that means you're nurturing this this kind of instinct and feeling in them, and it's reproduced in later relationships without the knowledge that the seed was planted in the first 1,000 days.
In those first 2-3 years.
Because we think they are too young, we think they don't understand, we think, and yet they are formulating opinions.
Yeah, they are learning about the world.
They're learning about the world they are in.
Yeah.
And the first thing is whether it's safe or it's not safe.
Yeah, it's safe.
Is
it safe? Is it predictable?
Because just imagine a lady that has all those things that we have thrown into the mix. One thing that we forgot is the changes of the body.
I think I thought about that. Like you've gained 20 kgs.
Yes. So you realize, you realize that she gives birth and she has seen women on internet who snap back in a week. They have a flat tummy and their weight has gone back to normal, and they're thinking, I give birth and it's going to be like that. And by a week or 2 weeks or even a month, their nose is still big. They still have the 20 kgs or the 30 kgs that they put on. And if
so have the stretch marks.
Oh, the stretch marks everywhere, the flabby body everywhere, and they just don't know how to deal with that. They don't know what clothes to fit in anymore, because then I'm no longer pregnant. I'm not going to put on maternity clothes. Yeah. That means I'm ashamed of myself and my image, and I just don't know how to deal with that.
Yeah, and because we've been socialized as women, that our value is hinged on what I look like. Physically.
That's why some of them don't even breastfeed in a sitting room where there are people. They would prefer to go private, because then I don't want anyone to see me. Or if they have a toxic or aloof partner, then that's what you say, that baby cries and they're thinking, you know what, your father is not giving me enough help.
Yeah.
As in, they transfer that anger to the child.
Yeah.
And then realize later, but this child is depending on me. And then they go very late to attend to the child. So you say that in that process, the child is reading the signals and is internalizing them.
Yeah, they're learning. Wow. They don't use words, but they are. But also, their brain is what you call wiring and firing. It's when the neurons and all of that is happening. it's come from a context of relationship.
You know, we are depressing babies without our knowledge.
Yeah, and many of us are so concerned about when will my child speak, walk, excel in school. Yeah. I'm like, I hear you, and begin really early from a context of relationship, the give and take.
Yeah.
I have a need, I show it, an adult response.
Be predictable.
Yeah, that I
That's
know.
what I'm
yeah,
getting
yeah.
from
Be
this.
predictable in how you're responding to me, the tone of voice that you're using as you talk to me.
It can be comforting, or it can be putting me off.
Yeah, and I'm going to pick that up. And there are videos out there on YouTube, like when a baby looks at a parent, and the parent smiles as the baby is cooing.
Oh, yeah.
And in this experiment, the dad or the mom, usually they're both, when dad turns away, the child keeps cooing and wanting, and I mean it's an experiment, so dad doesn't respond. Yeah. You see the child beginning to drool. Yeah. Goes quiet. This is like a minute and turns away.
Mine's, I mean, he's thinking I'm not getting what I want,
exactly.
so I might as well just...
Yeah. And drooling is always showing a child, there's the normal drooling developmentally, but when a child who was very regulated and begins to drool, that's dysregulation. Their body is overwhelmed.
Okay.
And when you turn and give them the attention, they're going to regulate and stop drooling.
And when you tell that to a Ugandan parent, I don't know what answers you've got.
They tell me I'm being too muzungu.
Exactly,
they're like,
exactly,
you've lived in
because
America
they're
too
thinking,
long.
what? Drooling? That is a normal thing for a child. What? The child is this what?
They tell me I'm being too much.
Hey, you're giving too much attention to the babies.
Yeah,
but again, I mean, we want them to turn out better than we turned out.
Yeah.
We don't want to pass on the same trauma to them.
Yeah.
It's not overcompensation because they think, then you're cushioning them too much. You should be able to bring them up with iron hands, like we were brought up. Didn't we turn out all right? We turned out all right. But again, you turned out all right because you can put on and you can look good, but you have wounds that are unhealed inside of you. Yeah. And that's when, if you get triggered, you get depressed and you get insulting people and exploding. Yeah. And that's not what you want to see your child turn out to be. Yeah. So when they tell you you're too much of a muzungu, you're like, you know what? Let me leave you alone.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the child is feeling all these, the overwhelming. You've talked about drooling. Are there other things that they do to show that they are overwhelmed?
I mean, just sadness. I've seen small babies that are just sad. You know, I know the temperament. So the kids are more like smiley and all over the place and bubbly. Yes. We get that. But you just find your child is sulking, but also struggles. I think about 4 things with mental health of young children. Sleep. Sleeping patterns, to observe that. I mean, smaller babies, like, as you know, those first few weeks, months, they wake up every 2 hours because they go to feed. And that is okay. But if your child doesn't sleep at all, they sleep for every 10 minutes they're awake. And as they get older, your child was sleeping properly maybe at 2 years, and then out of the blue, they're waking up a lot.
The pattern changes.
Yeah, the patterns is changing. You find time they're having bad dreams, because babies dream too. They wake up and they're crying, and they're dreaming, bad dreams. So sleep, feeding. Your child was feeding really well, is now not feeding.
All of a sudden.
Withholding poo, constipation, bowel movement. Okay. If your child is spending 2-3 days out doing poo, and you've checked there's nothing medical going on and all of that, just to be concerned about that. Overly crying. Children cry. So don't say if your child is crying, call Dr. Hattie. Please don't call me.
You know there's a hub for everything you're mentioning.
I know. I've had some conversations with people.
There's a hub for everything, my friend.
And so your child is overly crying to a point you can't console them. Yeah. Like I said, children cry. They're going to cry.
Yeah, but there's something that you really feel.
Yeah, you're crying, you can't, you're holding them, you can't, you're trying to feed, to hold, to tap, to rock your child.
That's nothing.
Yeah, nothing can seem to console
you even give it to another person, and another person gives it to another. You take turns at night.
Yeah, so and it's not colic.
Colic,
so
yeah, without
rule
colic.
out all the other things that we know. A child is not sick. Yeah. Like there's no
they
medical,
have been fed.
They've been fed. They have
been
slept.
they've taken a
bath.
But
they still, you still can't comfort them.
And the Muzungu in you will say massage. Hey, some of the things we are seeing in this world are strange.
Rock your baby's back. Hold the back.
But is the massage thing, does it work?
No, when we talk about the massage or rubbing your child's back, it helps to regulate.
To help to calm down.
Calm your child. I should stop using the word regulate because I'm talking to like the general population. Helps your child to calm down. So when your child is very stressed out, is crying, that's why you say rub the baby's back. It calms them down. It does for sure.
Yeah, but the African way of rubbing is slap a bit. Slap a bit, let's
or even
go
your
on.
small 2-year-old who is throwing has a huge meltdown. I tell parents, trying to reason out with your 2-year-old trying to get a candy off a grocery store is not, it's not going to work. Sometimes I'm like, just go, kid who is screaming on the floor, just go hold them. They're small enough. Breathe in, hold them. Just hold them.
Have you seen the kids these days at 2 years and they can speak?
I know.
They will say, Mommy has refused to buy me candy. You hold them up, they will not keep quiet.
Yeah, and also and you don't have to buy the candy. Because you're the adult.
Yeah.
And it's this
that's
trend.
Instant gratification. If I give you everything you want.
It's a trend I know we're kind of getting away, but it's a trend I'm seeing with a lot of kids that I'm seeing. Parents are hands off. A 2-year-old is ruling the world. A 3-year-old is ruling the house.
That's so wrong.
So
I want this.
We are hands off.
And I
with
think
our
they
kids.
test us because recently I think I told my husband that I think these kids sometimes. Actually, he's the one who told me these kids test us. If they throw a tantrum about something, and you give it to them and they keep quiet, then they're learning. Next time I'll throw a tantrum and they'll still give me whatever I need. And so it's like, so we flip. They throw a tantrum. We try to calm them down in whichever way possible, but we don't give it to them. Because then next time they will ask in a proper way. And if we say, no, you will have it in 2 hours time or you will have it tomorrow, they will still be appreciative and say, okay, Daddy, I'll have it. You'll have it tomorrow. I'll remind you. Because they understand.
Yeah.
These days, a 3-year-old, 5-year-old is like a teenager. Where is that coming from? Okay, guys, we're going in for I'm just having a treat of my life because I'm having live therapy. So excuse me if this conversation is a bit excluding you, but I know that you're coming along with us because I know there's so many questions that we've had as parents, and then we read so much from social media, and then we can't filter through it to know what is applicable and what's not applicable. There are so many people that have a lot of knowledge that we don't know where it's best and where it's coming from. But hearing from someone who has taken it as a passion and gone ahead to be an expert in that particular field, that tells you that it's more than just making money. It's me wanting to make a contribution to the world to be a better place, and a contribution to parents to parent better and to parent children that are going to turn out all right. So I mean, I have all the kind words for her and I salute her for that. But I hope that you're learning and picking up something. So get yourself more water, come back, let's go ahead with this conversation.